Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And good evening, our fellow lovers out there, for this late edition of Late Night Love. We're running a few minutes behind, but better late than never, as we always say. Even if you're late, you're still getting up to do it.
That's right.
I know some of us, sometimes have trouble getting out of bed and doing things in the morning, but hey, 25 minutes late is better than 25 days late.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. I overslept.
Somebody has a very odd sleep schedule these days. So
Yeah.
So it is what it is. What used to be a kind of a routine late night thing is now in the middle of your normal sleep routine. It's very weird. Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about dating, something which it's weird for me to talk about dating, but okay, because I don't go on dates.
That's right. We had outing.
Yeah, I don't do dates. You go out and hang. There's too much pressure when you're talking about a date. Can't be yourselves. You're putting on this false front, and so when you're just gonna go, do something together, hang out together, you get to kind of relax and be yourself. You're not trying to be, put off your best foot forward. You're just trying to put you forward, and so that's kind of why I have the difference. A dates is more of a performance. Just going somewhere together is just it's a different thing. It's actually different, which is why. Okay, it's different for me anyway. How's that? All right. So what do we have on tap tonight then for Levy?
Well, first we're going to talk about how to find a date.
Oh, well, yeah, that's always the hard part. Finding the date is fear of rejection is a difficult thing, right? It's a difficult thing to get past. So regardless, I suppose that's one of the things online dating has helped with a bit. The sting of rejection isn't necessarily so personal. But on the other side of that is, it's kind of a little less personal. So, we'll cover that as we go along. I'm sure it'll come up naturally in the conversation. Okay, so what do we got?
Well, of course, number one is online dating.
Okay, so swipe right. Swipe right is when you like somebody, and swipe left is when you don't. Is that what the thing is?
I don't know. I never did it.
Oh, well, I don't know. It says on number one is swipe right on online dating. So online dating has to be at the top of their list. Is that the one we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the number one on their list is online dating.
Well, 4 out of 10 relationships start online nowadays.
Yeah. Well, ours did. So it's not like it's unusual. I just didn't know what swipe right or left or which one it was which. So I guess swipe right is, that's what I was saying to me talking about dating. It's kind of pointless. But I guess swipe right on online dating means swipe right is to accept or to show interest.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're telling you to.
Well, we met through an online.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met online.
Yeah, so they recommend a specific company, but stick with the. I suppose if you're gonna spend money, stick with the most reputable ones. Don't go for the niche ones. Except for apparently, unless you're a farmer, there's a farmer's dating website that's apparently very successful. So there are niche dating websites that are real, but there's a lot of phony ones. So be careful. So be careful.
Be careful.
Be careful with and who and when you meet up with, but that goes without saying on any situation.
Yes, be safe. Be smart.
Yep. Okay, so what's next?
Attend local meetups and make friends.
Yeah, if you have to fight, it's always a weird thing when you go to meetups and things, looking for a potential date, rather than just going to try and engage in that thing. And if you happen to come across someone who has, you used to have one shared interest, right? And so maybe the likelihood that you may find someone with more interests. It just seems weird to me to go out there on a mission to find a partner rather than engage in the activity itself.
Well, that's the point of meetup. They do activities. And if you happen to find someone who sparks your interest, well, huzzah. But that's not the main focus.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're telling you to go do that as a dating focus. It just seems weird to me. Again, but again, you're talking to the wrong person to talk about dating with, so I might be overthinking it, which wouldn't be the first time. Okay?
Now, their recommendation is to hang out at bars or clubs.
Well, I suppose if you're interested in something light or you like hanging out in bars and clubs, you find someone else who likes hanging out at bars and clubs. I do caution about decisions made under the influence of alcohol or other adult entertainment substances, but you don't generally make your best decisions at 2 a.m. on a Friday night after engaging in adult activities all day. Just saying. So there's some caveats to that one. But on the other side, if you have a routine, a pub or something that you go to routinely, and it's kind of a place where you get to know people over the course of a couple of years, that's a different story, so it kind of depends, it kind of depends on the atmosphere and what you're actually going for. Are you going there because people are getting drunk and puking on your shoes and calling it culture? Or are you going there because, there's a group of people and you all like watching the local sports team or whatever it is on the TV on game days, and there's a community experience, and you
darts.
and you may play pool, play some darts, engage in fantasy sports of something, whatever happens to be the thing, the culture of that particular bar and or location. You don't even necessarily have to be a drinker, right? But you can participate. They also have sports athletic clubs, kickball leagues and things like that. You don't even have to be real sports. You have kickball leagues and pickleball leagues, I think, is big now, and frisbee things, and so you can go and engage in things that are light athletic entertainment, and you're meeting people who are doing the exact same thing. So it's not a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah.
I just say try to be authentic rather than going for it as looking for a date. You go for it, and you're just increasing the opportunity that you're going to come across somebody who has shared interests. I think would be you're just opening your possibilities. Okay, what's next?
Ask your friends or family members for suggestions.
Oh yeah, that'll go well. Let's ask your friends and family. Yeah. I don't know about that one, but okay. I mean, I guess it depends on your friends and family. If you got friends and family who are good at setting people up, who know you well, and they're good at this thing, versus if you've got friends and family who are going to set you up with the person they met at the bus stop because they were nice to talk to, it's there's a difference. There's a difference.
Well, in this article, they mentioned a coworker that her aunt set her up with a coworker.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, it's no different than building a career. Networking is still networking, even if it's relationship networking, personal relationships. It's it's still networking. And I guess the more opportunities you have to come across people who have similar worldviews, similar values, I suppose is a better chance you got. So I just be skeptical. You know these people, so you know which ones to listen to and which ones not to. That's, I suppose. Just if you got that friends who set you up on bad dates, and 3 out of 4 are bad ones on blind dates, and 3 out of 4 of them are bad ones, don't accept a 5th one. It would be my suggestion. Just saying. And that 4th one couldn't have been all that great because you're not there together still. You're not together still. So, just wasn't bad. It was just, was. Anyway, what's next?
Volunteering.
Oh, we missed Study Buddy, but okay.
Study Buddy?
Yeah, we missed 5. We'll come back. So you volunteer at a nonprofit organization or charitable group. That's true. Find one, because then you're you're both engaging in something that is meaningful to both of you. There's something coreness about it when you decide to do this.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's a at least a good starting point. There's a core value, a core direction that you share. I think is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Again, you're just increasing the likelihood that some part of the relationship will be a success.
Although studies show that more women than men volunteer.
Yes, because men are out there working overtime. And that's why men work more hours and women volunteer more hours. It's not that we actually work less; it's what we choose to do with it. Yeah. Again, women volunteer more hours and men work more hours, and both are just as valuable. Just one gets a cash reward and another gets an emotional reward. And it tells you which one, generically speaking, men and women value. Women value the emotional reward more than men do. And men value the cash reward more than. And it's not individualized. We're talking generic. You're talking, as you average the mass of humanity. It's got nothing to do with you as a person or me as a person. Just want to be clear. Okay, the next one is you can find a study buddy in class. So, again, you're somebody you can talk to and have discussions with, and at least you have a subject to banter about. So that's not a bad idea. We already talked about this. Let's play some sports. Go to sports teams. Look for opportunities to chat up people in everyday life. If you're an extrovert, this is easier than if you're an introvert. So if you're an introvert, you're going to have to stretch yourself a little bit, I suppose.
Yes.
It is part of this one. You're just going to have to do it. Or, join an introvert support group and find another introvert, where you're all end up on Zoom with your cameras off because and there's long minutes of silence. And the fact that you all accept it means you're going to find someone who helps you. I don't know, but just give things a try. A festival or fan convention. I guess the underlying theme of all these things is, go to places where people who have a similar interest or of course similar value, who share that kind of thing, congregate. And it's going to increase your chances of coming across someone who at least there's a start, something to start, like someplace for a conversation and a growth of a relationship to, there's a seed there pre-planted, supposedly.
Yes.
And so, it's not bad. It's not, and meeting people is easy. For those of us who are introverts, getting to know them is difficult. It does say this says meeting people is easy, and yes, this is true, but getting to know them is difficult, and getting to know the real them is difficult, and that's kind of what dating and whatnot is supposed to be about. And so, give it the old college try would be my suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, do the best you can on any given day, whether you call them a dates or an outing or whatever it is. Just try to be your best natural self. I want to say, be the best you on that day, and the chips will fall where they may. All right, so what are we doing next?
Okay, we're going to talk about how to meet someone without online dating.
Ooh, fun. Some we've already covered some, so we'll see. We'll probably end up skipping a few things, but
well, let's start with switch your usual routine even a little bit. Try a different coffee shop in the morning.
Yeah, it's again, find something new. Open your eyes. Observe the world around you. I guess part of it is to change your mindset, get out of your rut.
Yes.
And breaking that routine is part of that. Part of helping you do that is literally looking at new things. So, and again, it's not necessarily increasing your odds of creating a new match. What it's doing is it's helping your brain, your own mind, think of new possibilities, because you're actually doing something that's different. And so your brain is open to something new, something different. You're going to notice different things. So that's why you break your routine. I mean, yes, sometimes ruts are nice and comfy, but sometimes ruts are ruts and you get stuck. Sometimes it's hard to know which ones. And, if life, I always say when life has been, in upheaval, a rut is comfortable, right? It's the same, it's routine. There's no and you can get comfortable there.
Thank you. My life was tumultuous for the large part, and now in my in the back 40, I like my routine, and thank you. I like quote unquote boring. I find it very comforting.
Yes, but there's also, you change your routine, you add things. Your routine isn't stagnant.
Yes, I do. I add things. I may do a video for my barbell workout, but I switch videos around. I switch areas that I target on my body, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, and you've done major changes, right? You started going to church. You've been baptized.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you've been stuck in a rut. You have a routine, but a routine and a rut aren't the same thing.
I have a framework.
Yeah.
I have a framework and I work within it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which its timing is really weird these days. Hey, maybe it'll fix part of it with the tight clock change tonight.
Is that tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was last night.
No, it's tonight. Yeah. But your clock on your computer isn't changing anyway, so it's not going to matter.
It needs a restart. Yeah.
I don't know what you do to that poor thing. Anyway, that's a whole different discussion. All right. So we had, did I skip one? Yes, I think I skipped one. Look and act like you're open to meeting new people. So,
they talk about body language.
Yeah, try to avoid the corner of the room. I know again, we talk about introverts because I feel you. Try to avoid the corner of the room where you're sitting here with your arms crossed. You're not inviting anybody to come say hello to you. And maybe that's a signal you're subconsciously wanting to send. But if you're going to go, open your arms, stand under a light. You don't have to necessarily go stand in the middle of the room. I'm not going to ask you to go too much, but stand in the light, stand someplace where people can congregate and have a discussion with you. That's it.
Yeah.
And if it makes it easier, here's one thing: focus on what you want to talk about that day. When people are going to ask you, hey, what do? You know what you're going to talk about. If you want to talk about hobbies that day, talk about your hobbies because you've had a rough week work and you don't want to discuss work. Someone say, hey, so what do you do? Well, I spend a lot of time volunteering with this, say, hey, I generally an accountant, but really what I like to do is, and just focus on what you like to do. That way you're having the conversation you want to have. You actually can control conversations, but you have to actually do it. So if someone says, hey, so what do you do for a living? You're like, well, I'm really an accountant, but what I love to do is, help direct podcasts and just help people use their voice. So I volunteer time at the local public access just because that's what I know. So just because it's late, it's been a long day and a long week. So, but anyway, whatever it is you're volunteering, but what I like to do is help children with learning disabilities learn to read.
Yeah.
So I spend 4 hours on my Saturday, helping disadvantaged kids learn to read. So whatever it is, you acknowledge what they ask, you answer the question as shortly, as quickly as possible, and you move on to what you want to talk about. Talk about what interests you, and people will be interested in it. And then the conversation will flow more naturally. And so don't ask people what they do for a living. Ask them what they like to do. It's a vastly different conversation. So how do you like to spend your time?
Ooh.
Maybe they like to work. Maybe they'll talk about their work, but they're talking about what they like to do. Don't ask them, what their hobbies is. It's too open-ended. Just ask them, how do you like to spend your time? They'll tell you. Yeah. Even if it's, when I'm done with work, I just like to go home and sit down and just binge on, Netflix. I really like this particular series, so I rewatch it all the time. And then you've got a thing to talk. Oh, really? That sounds interesting. What about? I haven't heard of it. And then you can have a conversation about, asking, you don't need answers if you have questions, as Red Green says. So you can always answer a question with a question. And people love to talk about themselves, especially extroverts.
Yes, they do.
So-
Get them to talk about themselves.
Especially extroverts. Now, the introverts is harder. You actually have to have a conversation with an introvert. If you want to get, you've got to give. That's how introverts work. So you're going to have to actually have a conversation. But you know what? You'll have the deepest conversations you'll ever have. You'll have real conversations because that's the only kind of conversation they want. They don't want to talk about cats, the fluffy small talk. Small talk doesn't interest them. Otherwise, they'd be out doing small talk. So they actually want to have a real conversation. And so have one. Again, ask them how they like to spend their time. It's a good one. Okay. So what's next?
Work through your fear of rejection.
Okay.
Oh, we just did that.
Yep. No, we did the small talk one. So you work through your fear of rejection. Again, we did talk about it briefly in the first segment that, getting over that fear of rejection is a big thing. And the reason it's hard is because rejection hurts. It feels personal, even though it's not really personal. They're making a superficial judgment about you. And it may not even be, maybe it's about them,
I don't know how you guys do it. I was dating. I got rejected a couple times. I was butthurt.
Yeah. Well, have you seen how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other? I'm telling you, we give ourselves tough skins for a reason. Boys are mean to their best friends for a reason. We're developing that tough skin. So when the rejection happens, it doesn't feel so personal because we've said far worse things from the people who, we've been, damn, that's nothing. You heard what he told me in the gym the other day? That's nothing. And so that's why we do it. There's a reason for it, right? It may or may not be healthy. I'm just saying that's why it happens. I'm not actually commenting on its healthiness, mental healthiness or social healthiness. That is not a comment on that. I'm just pointing out reality. Just saying. Okay. So remember why you're doing it is what kind of the last one, I think.
Yeah. Is to have fun. When I went on a first date, I was so nervous. I put my frame of mind, I'm going to meet a new friend. I'm going to make a new friend.
Yeah, try to relieve the pressure, which is actually brings up to our next question is, how do you what is it? How to make your first date better? How to kind of set yourself up for a little bit of success. Okay.
Yes.
And so one of that is choose the right first date location. And I think, we've talked, some of this we've talked about. So we've talked about preparing for an engaging conversation. Choosing the right location is important. I've totally botched where we are on the article, but choosing the right location is important. Give yourself an out. Don't set you up for a 4-hour first date. Set yourself up for a half-hour first date with the potential to go to 4 if it goes well. Right?
You have the main cup of coffee, and if everything is smashing, you can always add dinner.
Yeah. If you
or lunch. Yeah.
Go for a lunch. Lunch is actually good because you're kind of limited. You're only limited to an hour at most, right? And part of that is travel time. So you've got a half an hour to sit down. You have a light lunch, and hey, want to meet for dinner tomorrow or next Friday or something? You've got a time. If it goes well, you've got an opportunity to set something further. If you're setting up for lunch on a weekend, like a Saturday lunch, you've got the opportunity to have a short lunch. You can meet for a brunch. And if you want to have extended longer, hey, let's go to the museum, let's go to a park and sit down and continue the conversation. You've got an open-ended opportunity, but you can also say, I only booked an hour. I got to go. I'll talk to you later. And, you can end the date gracefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one of those things. Given the choice of anyone in the world, who you want as a dinner guest, those are silly
These
questions.
are preparing for an engaging conversation.
No, I think preparing for an engaging conversation is just be prepared to talk about the things that interest you most. and be prepared with questions and be genuinely interested in the answers of what the other person is doing. And like I said, ask questions about what they like to do, not what they do. There's a difference there. And I guess if you want to have a couple questions in your pocket, kind of if there's a lull in the conversation, you can have something to kind of throw out. But don't do this. What would constitute a perfect day? Don't do that.
Oh my God. No.
Don't do that. Don't bring up your most treasured memory on a first date. You're not going that deep on a first date. If it happens to come up, it comes up, but don't go in there asking. Again, ask them what their time is. Ask them what they enjoy. Talk about what they like to do. I think is keep it light, keep it simple, and deep conversations will evolve from those. Especially if you're talking about what the people like. I'm repeating myself. How much time are we in here? I can't read.
We got 9 minutes before we go into questions.
All right. So
now they say learn from the past.
Well, here's one of the things I think when we talk about learn from the past is, the common factor in all your relationships is you. So if you always have this kind of bad dating experience, well, then maybe you're the one causing the bad dating experience, and there's something you should be doing differently. Maybe it's just an approach. Maybe it's you're putting too much pressure on the date, and trying to move too fast. There's 100,000 things that could be. It's not necessarily a human failure. You just find out what you may be doing. Maybe it's in the choice of people your choice of people to go out with. Stop choosing the proverbial interesting bad boy. Choose the nerd on occasion. Yeah. Whatever it is.
I love geeks, man. Gotta love a geek.
Or if you've been choosing,
I like that quiet guy in the corner because he usually has a lot to say.
Or
once you get him talking.
Yeah. That's the key. You've got to get him talking. And how do you get him talking? Ask him what he's interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then be interested. You don't necessarily have to understand it to be interested in it. I can't wrap my head around it, but it's cool that you like that kind of thing. What's the kind of communities around that? What do you guys do? Just tell me more about it. Yeah, he'll be interested. He'll be thrilled that you're not rejecting him because of it. You don't even have to accept it. You just have to say, that's kind of cool. Don't understand it. Have no clue what you're talking about. But it's cool that you guys are into it that much. I'd love to have a community like that.
Yeah.
All you have to do is not reject them. And they will love you for it because they've been rejected for these geeky things that they do. And so, yeah, you don't have to, you just have to accept that that's kind of what they do. And by the way, they will accept your quirks and weird things too. So it goes hand in hand. All right. So what else? Is that it? Oh, take a deeper look how you present yourself, which we've kind of covered. Okay. Body language, we've covered. Okay.
Know that a perfect match doesn't require perfect compatibility. It doesn't mean you don't have to see eye to eye on flipping everything.
Yeah. Throw the word perfect out of your vocabulary would be my suggestion. We're human beings. We're in relationships. They're not going to be perfect. It's not going to happen. And you don't have to. If you're an adult with empathy, you can work through most of them. And then the ones you can't, then, well, the relationship wasn't meant to be and you move on. Like an adult human being. And I think that's how, if you're willing to do that, the right person will come along far quicker than you think. Because you're open to, that means you're actually open to a real relationship.
Yes.
And being open to a real relationship is the very first thing you need to have a successful real relationship. It just is. You have to be open to it first. And if you want to control it, you're not open to a relationship. Because you can't control another human being. They have to choose to engage in the relationship just like you do. That's why we work.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, I think that's it for that. Do we have any? We want to cover this last one real quick, or are we moving on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Best first date ideas. We'll just hit a couple of them. Drive-in movie. We'll just review
Right, for a
this real
first date,
quick.
a drive-in movie is a terrible idea. Well, unless you get both in cars and kind of park next to each other, but that's a terrible idea for a first date. By the way, farmers market's okay.
Yeah.
I get that one. That's cool.
Bowling.
Bowling, because it can only last an hour if you only want to. You go do a couple quick things, assuming you both
Yeah.
bowl.
Yeah.
A concert. No, again, concerts you get stuck. Don't be anywhere where you're stuck for a long period of time. You want to be able to
And
bail on it.
at a concert, you can't really engage very much. You can't do many talking.
No, a concert's third, fourth date.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a concert's for. Third, fourth, maybe a fifth date. You go to a concert, you have a good night out, you have a dinner, you go to a concert or that kind of thing. You make an evening of it. That's a third or a fourth date, not a first one. An arcade's a good one for a fourth date, for a first date, though.
Heck yeah.
Ice cream, that's a good one if you live in a hot place. Hey, let's go meet some ice cream. That's a good quick first date to see if you guys have any kind of connection, a real connection. That's a good one.
Go see a sunset or sunrise.
That's if the ice cream meet goes well, then you go see a sunset or a sunrise. And then if the sunset or sunrise goes well, you go to dinner. Those are actually lined up nice and well. There you go. Drink wine and paint. I would suggest not drinking during a first date, but that's just me. Mini golf is fun for a second first date, or after you've had if you know the date's going to go well, because you will learn a lot about their character on mini golf.
Yes, you will.
You're going to learn if someone's going to have a temper. It will come out. There will be signs during mini golf. Do just well. So, again, a museum, that's a good idea. If
museums are lovely.
As a follow up to like a quick lunch or a quick ice cream, you go to ice cream. It goes well. You go to a museum.
Yeah,
that's a good backup thing to do. Shopping. No, don't take men shopping.
Go to a zoo.
Zoo's fine, I guess. I mean, I don't particularly like
an escape room. You got to be kidding me.
No, that's a fourth or fifth date.
Apparently, it's the new dinner and a movie in the dating world.
Yeah, it's a fourth or fifth date where you want to learn how someone handles stress. I get it. That's a fourth or fifth, not a first one. Good Lord, because again, you're literally sticking yourself somewhere on a first date with someone no, don't do that. Host a game night as a first date? No. Pumpkin patch.
Cook together. Ooh, take a road trip.
It's a first date? No. No. Nothing that takes that long.
Stargaze with snacks?
Not on a first date unless you had something quick earlier. So a picnic's fine because you can you're not stuck. Don't do anything where you're stuck. Don't go to places where you're drinking on a first date. I would avoid that. Volunteering, those aren't good first dates.
Thrift store shopping?
Those aren't good first dates. I just wouldn't. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of these
yoga class.
I don't know. I don't think a lot of these are good first dates, by the way. So anyway, don't go on a first date with someplace where you're stuck there for hours, or you're locked in. You want to have an out. You don't want to waste either one of your time. Why spend 3 hours miserable when after 15 minutes that it's not going to work? Don't do it. You go somewhere where where your expectation is 15, 20 minutes, and you have the ability to extend it if it goes well. That's what a first date should be.
Yeah.
So, and it also relieves the pressure, right? You're not having this big, huge thing as a first date. You're just kind of going and doing a thing and seeing what happens. It's, relieving that pressure. You're more likely to be yourselves. Anyway, that's my suggestion for our dating, which again, don't ask me about dating. I'm the world's worst person to date. to ask about dating.
I never dated well because well, I never dated casually. I mean, I knew pretty well on about the third or fourth date if I wanted to get to know this person more. Did I want to invest a little bit of time and really get to know them?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've got questions. Yay, questions. So we've been talking about dating. So if a dating goes well, you enter this thing called a relationship. And so you end up with some questions that you ask us for help with. And so what do we've got tonight, love?
My 25 female boyfriend, 26 male, lives off me. Should I send him back to live with his parents?
Well, there's a few other questions that you kind of have to ask to that. Is why, is it a short-term thing? Has it been an ongoing thing and he's not trying to improve and move on? It is, is he literally just a leech and you're just there still in a relationship because it's comfortable, quote unquote?
Convenient. Yeah.
Yeah. And if so, then, if you're going to end the relationship, then yes, you're sending it back. But understand if you do that, you're ending the relationship, which maybe is what he needs. It may very well be what he needs. Sometimes when you love something, you have to let it go. Or he may be going through a bout of depression, and the best thing you can do is to love him and help him, and you'll be rewarded in 6 months or a year. And there's not enough information for us to know. Just be careful, whichever one you're doing, because it's going to change both of your lives forever. So, but if your relationship has run its course, then your relationship has run its course. And that's kind of what the vibe I'm actually getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
So,
yeah.
And it's really got nothing to do, because if you love somebody and your relationship is progressing, you're not living off of somebody. You're the one who's earning. You're just the one who's earning the living, who's earning money, and the other person is running the household type of thing. And so you're not having this lives off me thing. So my guess is he's not pulling his weight. That's the real problem. Because if you're not going to earn income, you've got to make sure the house is taken care of and all the other things, right? That's, the other person's earning income, and your job is to make it so you don't have to do all the, you have to pull your part one way or the other. And, now each relationship's got to define exactly what that means, but he has to be providing value to her in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's clearly not providing enough value to her. And that's sad. Maybe it's depression, and maybe it's just he's a lost 26-year-old male. That tends to happen a lot. It does. Men in their 20s can get lost. It happens far too often. Because if young men don't don't establish responsibility when they're young, 21, 22, it's hard for them to learn it. That's why, in a strange way, it's good for young men to start a family. It's bad for women, but it's good for men because it matures them, forces them to think of something other than themselves. And a 25-year-old man who's only had to think of himself has ingrained. Now that's a habit, and breaking that habit is hard. So in a sense, being forced to have the responsibility of caring for a family at a young age is good for men. In our modern society, it's not necessarily good for women, but it's good for men. It matures them. And without that, you end up with a 25-year-old infant. And you can't even really blame them, because we kind of teach it to them as a society. So what are you going to do? Send him back to his parents and hope he learns?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and hope he doesn't end hopeless, but that's not your problem, sadly. Okay, what's next?
So my 26 male fiance, 25 female, told me she doesn't want to have sex anymore leading up to the wedding. Okay, my question is this. Are we talking about a couple weeks? Which is not unheard of because you want a specialness to the wedding night is what she's going for.
Well, if you're 3 or 4 months out, she may not want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
and rather than be careful, take the pills and do all that, she's going extreme. I don't know. There's so many things happen during that pre-wedding thing. It's almost like you accept it, but you treat it like a teenager, and in a week she's going to change her mind, and likelihood, but because she's all over the place with pre-wedding planning. So kind of let her be crazy. It's okay. As long as she's not a bridezilla, just let her be crazy, accept it. It does the one thing I would say is try to find out the reasoning. Just try to understand the reasoning. You may not understand it feelingly, but try to get it so you can wrap your logic head around it. At least her logic, right? She'll have a logic to it. You won't understand the logic instinctively, but understand that she does have a logic to it. It won't make any freaking sense whatsoever, but there will be an emotional logic. It'll be an emotional logic, which is why we won't understand it, but it will exist. There is a logic to it. Maybe it's, again, she wants to make the wedding night special, even though that ship has sailed forever, It's not, the wedding night is not going to be any different, because at this stage, what's going to happen at this wedding night is you're going to be too tired to have the wild sex y'all are thinking about. Right? It's just, that's what it is. It's the reality of the modern world. The marital night sex isn't the wild marital night sex is. It's you're lucky to get one in before you pass out from the long ass day you've had. And so,
Yes.
So even in your mid-20s, you just will, or more likely a little drinking too much, and you won't have any marital night sex. So there's the other side of that. So anyway, just accept her craziness leading up to the wedding, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's going to be the least stressful part of your, that's, of all the things you're going to have to worry about in your upcoming marriage relationship, that's the smallest one. So let that one stick with you for a while. All right. So what's the next?
36 female, 34 male. Do I tell them the truth about my infidelity?
So the 30s.
It was a male. It was the female who did the infidelity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to decide okay, well, here's the thing. Are you trying to make yourself feel better or make him feel better and repair your relationship? If you're just trying to ease, get the stress off your chest and make yourself feel better, and you're going to destroy the relationship and your family in the process, as much as I hate dishonesty in a relationship, you may want to reconsider, especially depending if you feel guilty about it and it's never going to happen again. It was a stupid one night thing after a fight or something really dumb, and it happened 3-4 years ago. Yeah. You're just trying to assuage your guilt because you can't live with yourself anymore. Talk to a therapist. Now, if he knows and he's suspecting and you just need to clear the air because it's the right thing to do in your relationship, then yes. And if you need someone to help you specifically in this particular situation, find a way to have that discussion, talk to a therapist.
Definitely.
But the generic thing is, don't try to do the thing and make the nice dinners and don't try to ease the blow, because you're not going to ease the blow. It's not going to happen. You just kind of have to sit down and kind of pull off the Band-Aid as gently as possible, but it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt both of you. But my suggestion is to talk to a therapist and get it right in your head why it happened, so you can actually answer the question that he's going to want to know. Why? That's the question he's going to want to know. Because if he can understand why, then he can get past it. Maybe. So in order for him to understand why, you're going to have to come to terms with why. And maybe it
Yeah.
was. Maybe it was just, they had a fight. You went out, you had drinking, and it was just, a colossally dumb thing to do as humans tend to do. It's possible. Yeah. And oddly enough, if that's the kind of ones that you can actually probably get over, people can understand being human. It's the emotional infidelity that really hurts people.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what's next?
My 22 male girlfriends wants me to stop playing video games.
Does she want you to stop playing video games, or does she want some attention from you? Because there's usually a compromise that could have been made, and it reaches to a point where she's just frustrated and wants you to stop altogether. So she may be being unreasonable, or you may be being unreasonable and not engaging, not taking your relationship, unintentionally taking your relationship, taking advantage of your relationship. That's not the way I want to. Anyway, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, you're not unintentionally taking advantage of your relationship. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not feeding it when you should be. And what she's telling you is a big ass warning sign that she's not being fed enough in the relationship. So, turn the game off for a couple of days, spend some time with her, and then have a discussion about, okay, where's the boundaries? How much time do you actually need? Because I need time for me. I need time to unwind. I need time to unplug. I need time with my friends. We all have that right to do these things, but you're going to have to treat it as a hobby. So this is my hobby. This and this is part of me. You have to accept it. But I understand I overindulged and I hurt the relationship. And I want to fix that part.
Yeah.
And if you do that and then you genuinely follow through, you'll be fine. But right now, what she's telling you is you're not feeding her relationship. She needs more from you. And you've got an opportunity to, make a decision. How important is the relationship?
Yeah.
And it's hard at 22 because you don't know. You're going to have to do some soul searching. And you know what? Talk to her about it. You'd be surprised how well that goes over. When you sit there and you talk about, but I'm not sure what I'm 22. We've got all this stuff. I'm paying my bills. I'm unknowingly stressed. I don't really know what I want. Do I want a family? I don't know. Have that discussion about your future. Even if the discussion is, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's actually what she's looking for. Surprise, surprise. She doesn't just want to sit and watch a Netflix show with you. She wants to know what her future holds. And she doesn't know what her future holds unless you kind of do. And if at 22, neither one of you know what your future holds, but you can talk about it.
Yeah.
You can talk about even if it's your discussion is what you're afraid of. I'm afraid of not having direction. I'm afraid of raising a family because I don't have direction. Well, maybe the family gives you direction. Who knows? Maybe the desire for a family can give you direction. But you can't find that out until you have a discussion. Okay. And if you have a successful relationship, guess what you end up doing?
Parenting.
Or, of course, sometimes they're not so successful relationships and you end up parenting anyway, but that is a different problem. We're not going to talk about that one, hopefully. Okay. So what we got from parenting tonight?
The kid wants to wear 2 different shoes. He's 4 years old and they're mortified.
What? Well, at 4, of course, he wants to wear 2 different shoes. Now, at 4, I don't know. I'd probably have him put on both the same shoes. Now, when you get older, you let him wear 2 different shoes. It's a style thing. But, pick your battles. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at 4, I just put my kids' shoes on. They didn't get the choice in the matter, so it didn't really matter. I just put their shoes on. So, anyway, but that's my suggestion. At 4, it can go either way, whichever one you want to do. They're 4, but as they get older, you have to let them have their style. And no, it doesn't look bad on you. We gave all that up in the 80s with the spike colored hair. Okay, what's next?
Is the second child easier?
Define easier. It's not easier. You just have experience and you now know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's easier. It's just you now have experience, right? It's just like cooking anything. It's like baking a cake. The first time you bake a cake, it's hard. The second time, it's easier. The third time, it's easier. But it's actually the exact same tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just you just now know what to do, so you lack the anxiety that came with doing everything the first time. A little bit, but then you also have more inputs. So is it easier? Yes and no. You're more experienced.
It all depends. My oldest daughter had a very easy first child, and he was a little boy, and very kind, very thoughtful, very gentle. And then she had a little girl, and she is a pistol. She is into everything, going 100 miles an hour, and she doesn't care about you. She's 4. Okay, she doesn't have a thought for very much for anyone. But,
Yeah. So yeah, it really does depend on a wide variety of factors, but mostly you're more experienced, so it might feel easier, but you're really doing the exact same thing, which means it's not easier. You're just better at it.
Yeah.
So there, the answer is it easier? No, but you are better at it. So take that to heart. Okay.
How many of your child's events do you need to attend? They have a teenager that's very involved in band and
Well, it's going to depend on the child.
basketball and
Some children are very independent and they don't really need you there cheering them on and stuff. As long as you make sure they get there and you support them participating, they're fine. There are other children who need you to be there, who need you to cheer them on, who need that extra support. So it entirely depends on your child and the circumstances around you. Now, children may also know you're working, you can't show up. They may not like it, but they will understand it. They just, especially when they may resent it in their mid-20s, but when they're in their 30s and they have their own family, they'll completely understand. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. That's what happens to everybody, right? It's part of growing up. So you do, for raising a family, you do what you have to do. Now, if you're just going to sit home on the couch eating bonbons, while your son's off doing something, maybe you should think about going on occasion. Yeah. But do you have to go to everyone? No, but if you can, maybe you should. Maybe you can. But you shouldn't. There is a line, and it depends on your child, I think. Yeah. And maybe you like going to these things. Apparently, they don't, but maybe they like to go into. Or if you like going to the basketball games, go to the basketball games. If you like going to the other events, go to the marching band or whatever. See them. Go to the ones you like going. But support him in all of it I think is the important thing, which I think they're doing. They're supporting him. They're letting him go off and they're getting involved. They're getting him rides. They're making sure he gets there, making sure he's got the money to do all this stuff. And, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. And sometimes it's not. Okay. What's next?
My older teen keeps unfinished soda bottles in her room and it's driving me mad.
Well, welcome to raising teens. That essentially is the answer to that one. You're just either going to have to accept that A, they're going to have unfinished soda bottles in the room, or B, you're going to have to go in there every few days and clean them up yourself. And just kind of accept it if it bothers you that much. And depending upon the teen, if you do that, go in there and clean them up every few days, they'll start cleaning it up themselves. Because they don't want you to do that.
They don't want you in their room.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Only clean up the soda bottles. Don't resist the urge because you'll get resentful if you do anymore. Just go pick up the soda bottle. Yeah. But, welcome to 70% of teenage parents of teenagers. Yeah, welcome to the problem.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. This is it's what children do. Don't feel alone on that one. Yeah. So the other thing is close the door and don't look is the other option. Get a rule once a month you have to clean up or tidy the room. Don't say clean up, just say make it look like, someone lives in there. It's just, lower the standard a little bit so they can actually hit it. I think maybe another. Because part of the problem is you end up with these, Martha Stewart standards that these teenagers, they're not going to make. So don't give them the standard. Give the standard. Can I walk in here, please? I just want to be able to walk in. I don't want ants. So can you can you just make sure all the, I don't care about the clothes on the floor or whatever. Wash them when they're, stop doing their laundry, and they'll learn how magically they'll learn about not keeping their clothes on the floor. But they will. But we don't want ants. So get the food and soda out of here. That's a reasonable rule. And if you kind of ignore the clothes on the floor, they'll follow that no ant rule thing. So some give and take will help. All right, what's next?
Work.
Oh, yay.
Okay, this is an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
One of my supervisors screamed at me and chased me down the hall. She sent me a word apology email, but I don't know how to respond.
Have a conversation. My guess is she was having a bad mental health day, and she feels really awkward about it. You may want to send a thing to HR just so it's kind of documented or whatever, but I wouldn't make a huge ordeal out of it unless you really feel the need to. You do want to document it just because, there may be a history of these kind of things that you're not aware of, and that, it's more important. But for you as an individual, people, especially nowadays, can have a lot of stresses in their lives, and what can cause what would be a normal reaction to overreact is unfortunately common, and far more common these days than it was. People are on the nerves, with especially and economically fragile with the inflation and all that. So maybe a bit of grace may be called for.
Yeah.
Especially if this is kind of a just completely out of the blue type things, never really happened before. It's really way out of character, maybe having a conversation, and depends upon the weird email. Depends how weird the apology email is. She may have kind of overshared, which is why it got weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of my guess. You overshared. Look, I'm having a bad mental health day, and I'm sorry. I completely overreacted. The way you have every right to be upset. If it's a genuine apology, even if it's a little overshared, maybe accept it, because, one day it may be you.
You never know.
But again, if it's a habit, if it's a thing that's happened before, maybe there's something to deal with. So that's why you do report it to HR without making a huge ordeal of it. Maybe start with a conversation instead of a formal letter, and just see where it goes. But you've got the weird apology letter to document it, so it's not like it's your word against hers. So, but that's a hard one. It really is, and it's so much about the culture of the workplace and what's happened previously and how out of character it is. If it's out of character, then you deal with it vastly different than if it's something that kind of happens on routine. It's someone overreacts all the time. It's something different. Okay, what's next?
I really don't know what the point of my job is. Are all office jobs like this? Don't companies have mission statements?
Well, that just means that they have poor leadership. Because there's a lot of things where it can feel like all you're doing is mindlessly pushing paper, right? And you don't feel the connection to a mission, but that's a failure of leadership, right? Maybe the mission doesn't motivate you. That's a whole different discussion, but you should at least know what it is. What do I do? Well, my job is to make sure, even if all you're doing is saying processing paperwork, so the client file is updated with a computer, right? So all you're doing is printing paper and shoving it in a file. Well, you're making sure that a client can have proper customer service later on down the line if something should happen. That's actually an important job, right? You got quick access to information that the client will need in the future if there's some kind of disaster and they need access to the information. Cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your job may be mundane. It may just suck, but at least it's a connect. There's a connection. You know what the job actually is for, and if no one has told you, they just said, "Here's what you do. You do this to this," and there's no connection to the, you don't know what your cog in the wheel is. You're just a cog in some wheel in some big ass, machine that does. Yeah. Then it's hard to do. Now, you may not be motivated by the mission. That's a different question. But a failure of leadership, if you don't know your mission, that's just a failure of leadership. And that happens sadly way too often. So you can find out yourself. What does your company do?
Yeah.
And what role does you could ask somebody. There's that. You do have the option of asking somebody.
Your supervisor's a great place to
maybe
start.
not even, maybe just, hey, why do I do what I do? I mean, I get it. It needs to get done, but why does it need to get done? Just someone help me wrap my head around it. And it doesn't matter. I just curious. So, but yeah, it does. They make a whole movie out of that. Office Space, right? Or a TV show, The Office. They make a whole movie about it. Yeah, the whole entertainment thing. Dilbert is about the whole thing. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of comics and whatnot about it. All right, what's next?
What happens if you're employed in two places for a short time?
Then you're employed in two places for a short time. Yeah, you've got two jobs.
It doesn't look bad?
No. It looks bad that you're someone who has a strong work ethic. No, it doesn't look bad at all. Yeah. Now, job hopping used to look bad, right? That you weren't committed to a company, but that ship has sailed decades ago. That's an old theory. Because they're job hopping, but yet they're going to send headhunters out of you, but they're going to complain that you're job hopping, right? These companies are hiring you, but yet somehow job hopping is looked frowned upon. No. Job hopping is frowned upon because the company you work at doesn't want you to leave, so they tell you job hopping is frowned upon. The job you're going to, job hopping is great. You're willing to take on new opportunities, right? So, yeah, getting fired is different, than job hopping. Job hopping means you have valuable skills to sell. Getting fired and being able to get a new job because you suck at the last one, but somehow you're personable and people are willing to hire you and give you a shot. That looks bad. So there's a difference. Okay. Okay. So what's next?
Should I quit without another job lined up?
The standard answer is no, but it depends on your mental health and your financial ability to withstand it. So that's a short answer. Yeah. If it's bad for your mental health, you should probably leave as soon as possible. Right? If you're utterly miserable, if you can. Okay, so what's next?
Oh, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, well, it's up there.
Oh, okay. We got sex questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Boyfriend got annoyed that I don't want to swallow.
Okay, can I tell you why it's actually annoying?
Why?
It's like coitus interruptus.
Oh.
It's like you take someone right to the edge where you get, and then you get it's a half of it's not the same. It's a diminished orgasm, and we're terrible at communicating this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Too bad. So sad.
I'm just telling you the reason. I'm not saying that you have to care about it. I'm just saying that that's the reason. It's like,
well, for her,
Well, just think about it this way: you're all prepared for a rip roaring, or liquid causing orgasm, and now all of a sudden you get one that's just kind of flatlined. You've got this whole build up. It's and then just at the moment where you're gonna go, oh, never mind, and you just skate back down the hill. It can be a little depressing. Now, the older you are, the better you are at dealing with that kind of thing. But young men are terrible about that, right? They kind of take it personal, and it's not really personal. But again, so I just want to know. There's the reason.
Why do they take it personally?
This rejection thing.
Uh-huh.
It feels like rejection.
Oh.
It's not a logical thing, which is why they don't express it, because it sounds stupid, even to them. But it feels like a rejection. It's not, and they know it, logically know it's not. But when you're dumb, young and dumb, you don't make those connections yet. You have no way to express these emotions logically, and it comes out as you're upset, rather than being able to, calmly explain why and deal with them yourself. Because you're going to have to learn to deal with it eventually, and then he'll learn, or he won't, and you'll have to find someone who prefers to swallow. There's women out there there's people who like to swallow, so something for everybody. If that's now, if that's a deal breaker in your relationship, I might question your your priorities, but you're allowed to have what your priorities are. Okay, so what's next?
I'm female, 24. I hooked up with a man. After he orgasmed, he was anxious about leaving his full condom on my house. He took the condom with him, and I find it very weird. Is there an explanation for this?
Yes, someone in his circle has had a essentially a pregnancy scam run on them, and he's afraid of that happening to him. It happens. It happens far more often than you think.
You're kidding.
No, it's a reverse of stealthing. If men are willing to do it, you think women aren't? And the thing is, it's not illegal for a woman to do, but stealthing is illegal for a man, which it should be. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with it.
What's stealthing mean?
When you serendipitously take off when you take off the condom without letting her know, and
so
you stealthily leave your seed inside of her. It's called stealthing. It's a crime in California, but yet the reverse happens just as often. Yeah. So my solution to this: stop hooking up with people. That's your solution. Develop a strong relationship and have sex with one person. It's safer in every way. May not be as fun, but it's safer. There it is. What it is. Okay.
How do I, female, overcome my fear of receiving oral sex? Well, I'm suspecting you have what you consider a hygiene issue. And so, first time doing the shower. And here's a little tip. There are flavored vaginal suppositories for women. So you can give him a little, cherry tasting treat while he's down there.
You're the only ones who want that. He wants to taste you, not a cherry treat. By the way, just to let you know. Those things aren't for the men, they're for you. So you guys feel sexier and feel tasting better. We really want to taste you. Just saying. When we say we like that stuff, we're making you feel better. Just saying. It's great. You guys love that kind of stuff, and you guys like to make it special and all that. Okay, great. We'll go along. We'll pretend. We'll act. We'll do all that kind of great things because we love you guys and we want to have sex with you. But no, we prefer. We're simple creatures. We really are.
Unnatural.
Natural flavors are much. They existed. They taste like that for a reason. So my guess is the way you overcome any fear, just like a fear of flying, you talk to a therapist is your best way. Talk to a sex therapist, because what I have personally found, most women who have a fear of oral sex being performed on them have some type of sexual trauma in their past, and that needs to get dealt with. And they're not going to get past this until they deal with that. My own personal experience. So. And other than that, if it's a legitimate fear, it's like a fear of flying or a fear of heights, then you go through a desensitization process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that requires a sex therapist. So there you go. and it's clearly bothering you, so go talk to a sex therapist. There's my actual suggestion. Yeah. So there we go. Okay, one last one.
Last question. Boyfriend is suddenly a lot better at sex?
Have you been practicing?
Apparently.
Sometimes we just, over time you learn, and then all of a sudden you appear overnight to be better, but you're not. If just one night you noticed that, oh, hey, this is much better than it used to be. And the reality is, it's just he's learned you. You're a complicated combination lock. Sometimes it can take time to learn. And once you learn the combination, well, guess what? Now all of a sudden, suddenly sex is better. No, you just finally figured out your combination. So, or he's gotten into, more adventurous porn, but likely he's just learned your combination.
Huh.
Yeah. Like we said, practice, you get better at things as you practice. Yeah. You just finally learned your combination. Maybe it was a little slow. Well, I'm not Einstein's. You don't necessarily send the best signals, the kind of thing. So yeah, my guess is he's just finally learned. He cracked your code, and yeah. So be happy. I don't understand the
well, she was suspicious.
Now, is there other reasons to be suspicious, or is it just all of a sudden he knows how to get your socks off, and so you're saying, hey, did someone teach him? Yeah, you did. Another woman's combination is different. So it doesn't translate. It's not how it works. So now, if there's other reasons to be suspicious and this is just added to it, that's a whole different discussion. But by itself, no, it just means he cracked your code. That's it.
Huzzah.
Okay. Enjoy.
Yeah. Have a good time.
We end up on a positive note. There you go. But that's it. Online dating, that's the whole process. We've kind of gotten the whole process of dating. Yeah. Early on, sex is awkward and not necessarily good. But, you work at it, you practice, and just like any relationship, any part of your relationship, it becomes more and more functional. Next thing you know, it actually works.
Yeah.
All right. So we are out of here. Me and Lubby, sorry about starting late. And I think we ran long too. So we just did all kinds of things wrong tonight. So anyway, for me and Lubby, good night. And we'll see you next week. Do we know what we're talking about next week now?
No, not yet. I'm going to find out what holiday is. I think it's Cat Appreciation Month, but I'm not sure.
Oh, so we're going to kind of do something themed. We do have to think about, are we doing our Thanksgiving show before or after Thanksgiving?
I don't know. I have to check the calendar. I haven't checked the calendar yet.
Well, Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday, so we're either doing it the week before
or the week after. Yeah, we'll do it before.
Okay, all right. So look for that on what is that? 2 weeks. So anyway, we will see you guys next week. For me and Lubby, take care. Good night, and please remember to love everybody.
Good night.
What is with me hitting wrong buttons like 3 weeks in a row?